Hello, my name is Grant Kramer and I am Professor Emeritus at the University of Nevada, Reno. And today we're going to be talking about wine tasting, but the actual sort of mechanics. What do you do and what you consider when you're tasting a wine? So the first thing that we do is we assess the appearance. We look at the wine. I'm going to go into some more detail about this on each of these steps. So there are 4 steps. First one is to assess appearance. The second one is to assess the aroma or the bouquet of the wine. Then to assess the taste on your palate, and then try to make an overall assessment of the wine. So for one of the things for assessing appearance, we need white paper in order to look at the color of the wine. So typically you will tip the wine on its side, maybe a 30 to 45 degree angle, and look through that color, and particularly we're looking at the rim of the wine, at the color there. It's very dark and thick through the center. You want to look at the edge. And we're looking for the color, the clarity of the wine. Another way of doing this, instead of looking at a sheet of paper, would be to hold it up to the light and try to assess it that way.
Here are some examples of different kinds of wines and the colors you might see along their rims.
With a white wine, we want a light yellow, clear, pale straw color. We're looking for whether or not it's darker, perhaps even starting to brown a little bit, not quite brown, but more amber color. That's a sign of oxidation. With red wines, you're going to see a pale red or a brick red, or maybe a ruby color, or even a purple color. Again, as the wine ages, you'd look at that rim and you'd start to see along the outer edge of that wine a sort of oxidation, browning of the wine. You're looking for the intensity of the wine as well. How dark is it? How light is it? And you're looking for clarity. Usually in modern day wines that are commercially made, they're filtered, so they're almost always all clear. But in some cases, wines are not filtered and they will have a little bit of a cloudiness to it, which is maybe an undesirable characteristic. But on the other hand, it's claimed, and I have experienced it myself, that when you filter a wine, you can strip some color out or even some flavor. So the next step, step 2, is to assess the aroma or bouquet. Does it have a good aroma or nose to the wine? So you stick your nose into the glass, and if you stick it in deeper or out further, you'll get different aromatics and different smells. So you move it in and out to determine what you're trying to detect and whether it's good or not. You swirl the glass. So one easy way is to set it on a flat surface like this, if you're unpracticed, and swirl the glass on the table, which allows you to get and coat the sides of the glass, and that allows for volatile aromas coming off the glass. But as you're more experienced, you can hold the stem here and swirl it. And this is going to increase the intensity of the aromas. You can take a big sniff and try to assess what you're sniffing, okay? Your sniffing or your sensitivity to those aromas becomes more insensitive the more you sniff it. So it's a good idea to wait 15 seconds and allow your passages to clear, and then go back in and assess it again. And you may get a more stronger or better experience. And ideally, this wine is going to change over time, and you may see changes in the temperature of the wine, but changes in the aromatics. Some aromas may blow off, some good ones maybe, or some bad ones will blow off, and that wine you'll will experience a different experience 30 minutes later. So wine tasting is not a sniff and drink, but a real experiential thing, particularly when you do it with food. So what are we smelling for? We're smelling for intensity. We're smelling for fruits. What kinds of fruits? There are all sorts of fruity aromas in different wines, and it's usually a mixture of fruits. We're smelling for some spicy characters, and we might also smell for off odors that are unpleasant to us. Okay, when tasting a wine, you want to try to increase the volatility of that wine. So we swirled it. But now when I take a sip of it, I'm going to breathe air in across my tongue and my mouth, and this is going to increase the volatility of the wine and bring it up into my retronasal cavity. Now, real pros will do it with a big kind of noise, and that's sort of embarrassing for most people, and you may not feel like doing that, but it's worth a try just to experience that. Then, when that wine is in your mouth, you don't want to just quaff it down. You want to let it sit there for a moment, and you want to experience the sensations. Is it sweet? You might detect that on the tip of your tongue. Is it sour? You might detect that on the sides of your tongue. Is it bitter? You might experience that in the back of the mouth. And astringency, which is the chalkiness or dryness, which is the precipitation of proteins in your mouth, particularly on your tongue. It's an actual physical sensation. In fact, as you taste a wine over time, because those tannins are astringent and binding to proteins on your tongue, you have less proteins on your tongue, the wine will taste less astringent over time. And that can be a good thing. It can also be a negative thing if at the end of the day, you're going around tasting wines at wineries and you end up buying this wine that you think is beautiful only to bring it home and on another day open it up and go, oh my gosh, that's way too tannic. And that's because your mouth has become desensitized to the astringency. So here, let me demonstrate. There you have it. Okay, so once we have put wine in our mouth, what are we looking for in that wine besides those characteristics that I mentioned? In addition, you want to assess the mouthfeel of the wine. Does it have a thickness or a body to it? And you want to assess the finish. Is the finish short or long? Is there some aftertaste at the end of the wine that is different? Some wines can go on and on and on for many seconds after you've swallowed the wine. So a few terms that we could use for talking about a wine that would be, say, favorable. The wine's balanced, that is, the sweetness and the acidity and the tannins are all well-rounded. We could say the wine is concentrated, or complex, or crisp, or powerful, or rich, supple, or delicate. These are terms that are commonly used when wine tasting. Some unfavorable terms you might use in a wine that you don't care for too much might be, it's astringent, it's got too much tannin, it's tart, it's too sour, it's hollow, it's lacking some fruit, it's oxidized or caramelized, open too long or exposed to too much oxygen, it's aged too much. It might be too volatile, it might have vinegary characteristics or volatile acidity. It could have cork taint, which is a problem with some wines because of the cork and the fungus that grows on the cork. The wine might be flabby. That means the wine didn't have enough acidity in it to make it well balanced. Or it might be hot. It had too much alcohol in it, and that dominates the fruit. So finally, the overall assessment of the wine. If it doesn't taste best now, would it pair well with a certain kind of food? Will the wine improve with age? Maybe it's too young and it needs to be sat down for a little bit while longer. Does it match your varietal expectation? Does it taste like a Chardonnay? Does it taste like a Syrah? And the final one that I think is probably one of the most important is the wine good enough that you would buy it? Is this a wine that's desirable to you? And then what price would you pay for that wine? $10, $5, $100? You get what I mean. Well, that's it for this brief mechanical demonstration of wine tasting. Please like my channel and subscribe to it, and we'll have more videos of wine tasting in the future. Have a great day.